Comics and Tariffs, Death and Taxes on today's Comic-Jutsu. That's right, this is catastrophic news for comics publishers. We saw the release of the new tariffs to the rest of the world just this week. Most notably, everything coming from China will face an immediate 54% increase in importation cost, which ultimately adds to the net cost on all e-commerce as well. This is bad. This is bad for independent publishers. Just on a recent episode of Comic-Jutsu, I was talking about how, as independent creators, we had the freedom to use crowdfunding to basically make our own way in comics. But those of us that are having anything printed outside of the United States, you suddenly just got a huge tax put on top of it, whether it was coming from China. Well, China obviously the largest, but whether it was coming from Canada or even Mexico. Now, I don't have any specific numbers. Immediately this will affect, UK comics and products. I've been doing my best to research this. I'm not an economist. I'm not any of that. I'm just a guy that writes, draws, creates, and plans to publish my own comics. So, this is something we all need to pay attention to. So let's keep looking at the 54% from China, because we know a lot of the really big books come from there, things like omnibuses and things like that. That is the most remarkable increase. I don't want to go through the numbers for all the other various countries that are affected. But, we kind of knew this was coming as soon as the election was declared. And, hopefully people got their work done in and out before all of this hit. I mean, even it's going to get nutty with post going back and forth even to Canada. I mean, I understand a lot of people get things from Canada. And I order books and things all the time from Canada. So it's immediately going to affect me. So what happens is, if you have those books sitting in the port, your tariff, your 54% tariff increase is due immediately. Immediately. You're not allowed to pick them up. You have to pay it immediately. Doesn't matter if it's been sitting there for the past month or past 2 weeks or the past week. If it's there as of this week, boom, tariff just hit it, and it's due immediately. If you do not pay that, your products are destroyed. Your books are destroyed. Most books for American consumption come from China. I'm also an avid tabletop role-playing gamer because I've gotten old. I can't do martial arts every day like I used to. My body's beat up, banged up, so I like to just roll dice to do my, to do my adventuring now. And, the RPG industry, pretty much outside of the big company, just got devastated. I mean, of course, companies like Hasbro and WotC, Wizards of the Coast, will be able to adjust and survive. They're a major corporation. But, the little companies like Paizo that publishes Pathfinder or, Troll Lord Games or Frog God Games, you can just go down the list. They're all immediately affected. Some Kickstarters are asking for anywhere from $3 to $10 from their donors to, or from their pledgers, $3 to $10 additional dollars to help cover their costs. There are different ways that this can be approached, or someone could just straight up just eat the cost and lose a ton of money because there's no way to plan for this 54% tariff that was suddenly unveiled on all of us. There's a pretty decent article on Bleeding Cool, which I hate to mention because I think that guy, he kind of allegedly, he picks and chooses what he's going to promote. And I might mention it when we talk about our Cartoonist Kayfabe episode, which I delayed because of these darn tariffs. But I'm going to get to it next week. In the way that Bleeding Cool covered part of the story of what happened, but didn't cover all of the end. They picked and chose what they wanted to show then, but they were okay with showing all these accusations. Anyway, let me get back on track, okay? So this is also immediately affecting, any kind of Kickstarter or production company that was looking to make action figures. I mean, in tabletop role-playing games, the minis are going to be affected, the dice are going to be affected. In comics, the action figure lines are going to be affected. There was an immediate announcement of the cancellation of the Longbox Heroes Wave 2 series that was going to introduce several classic characters into action figure form. Savage Dragon, the Rocketeer, the original Daredevil from the Golden Age, Grendel, the Tick, the Moth, Mage, Madman, so on and so forth. Brilliant looking Kickstarter. I actually had it on my radar, wanted to be a part of it. Those are really cool, really fun figures. Immediately canceled. Fortunately, they're canceling rather than putting themselves into this, this debt hole. So let me read their statement. Well, this isn't great news if you're a fan of Longbox Heroes collection. This is posted on toynewssi.com. We want to start by thanking you for your incredible support over the last week of the Kickstarter campaign. We've been closely monitoring recent developments regarding tariff increase, and after much deliberation, we have come to the difficult decision to suspend the campaign. As many of you may be aware, recent policy changes have significantly increased tariffs on goods imported from China. These new policies impose an additional 35% tariffs on top of the existing 20%, meaning we now face over 50% in tariffs on our manufacturing costs. Unfortunately, this cost is not absorbed by China. It directly impacts us as manufacturers and ultimately you as backers. To put this into perspective, it is our production cost for a figure. If our production cost for a figure is $10, the new tariff increases that cost to $15. That's in addition to licensing fees, internal production costs, tooling, and distribution. This means a single figure would now cost roughly $40 for backers once all tariff and shipping and handling fees are factored in. I'm not paying $40 off the bat for a Grendel figure, We don't believe this. That's me interjecting, by the way. Let me get back to the article. We don't believe this is a fair price for the type of figure we are producing. We know many of you would share our concerns. Given these circumstances, we have made the incredibly tough decision to cancel the Kickstarter campaign. No one is more disappointed by this outcome than we are, but we remain committed to finding a way to bring these figures to life at some point in the future. We deeply appreciate your enthusiasm, support, and understanding throughout this process. Thank you for believing in this project as much as we do. Best, Bill and Jason. Let's look at another article from Downthetubes.net, where they've been exploring comics and more on the web since 1998. Trump's tariffs, how they impact the comic industry and others. Recently imposed tariffs by the American government. Blah blah blah. We'll skip over all this stuff. I'm not trying to make this 100% political. We're just talking about the facts about how people are affected by this. Publishers such as Rebellion, publishers of 2000 AD and Judge Dredd magazine, Titan Comics, publishers of Conan and a range of manga titles, and its parent Forbidden Planet, who make a wide range of exclusive toys and collectibles, Panini, who publish Doctor Who magazine, and others are all likely to be hit by the 10% tariff imposed on goods exported to the U.S. from the U.K. announced yesterday. Additional customs paperwork and other administrations will likely impact the cost of these tariffs still further. So the tariffs into immediate effect, and as I stated earlier, they're due now, total due now. With often smaller runs, many British independent comic publishers use UK-based printers such as Comic Printing UK and mix them to fulfill crowdfunding and regular print demands, so will not face the same issues as those facing US independents. But offering print editions stateside of UK titles is now more problematic. I have just sent a significant batch of Unit 666 to the U.S. and communicated with our customers, says Noel K. Hannon. I'm expecting they will need to pay a 10% tariff and have asked them to let us know how and when that happens. We've dropped the U.S. from our next kit starter, says independent publisher Neil Roche of Pig Dog Press. I know they won't be massive numbers, but still, we'll probably have to offer U.S. readers digital only until these tariffs are lifted, says Scratch Comics UK publisher Shane Chebsey, or just increase U.S. shipping charges by 10%. Neither option is great. Now, mind you, they're just discussing the tariffs, because the U.S. Postal Service is about to be devastated again, too. You may not remember, but I mean, I buy stuff from online all the time, from the secondary market. And during the first administration of what we're experiencing now, the cost for everything went up, and deliveries became, unreliable. They took longer. Packages got lost. Costs increased. So there's still more to come on that when the U.S. Postal Service is affected. The reason this affects so many aspects of our work is because paper and product importers, book manufacturers, are affected. Paper and ink comes from China. Printing ink, machines and their parts, and even toner comes from China. Reciprocal tariffs applied to items in the warehouse that have not yet been picked up, even though they've already arrived in the U.S. That's what the reciprocal part means. It's almost like a retroactive tariff, but, we're dealing with Orwellian speak here. Even shifting manufacturing and printing completely to the United States is going to take a while. It will take years to start up productions in the U.S. to replace this. There was a Dominique statute that kept the tariffs under 10% cost, but that has been eliminated by Trump. Our book exception is no longer in effect. So you may think, oh well, what about the Dominique statute? It's supposed to keep book costs under 10%. It's gone. It does not exist anymore. It's been eliminated. This puts small publishers out of business. They're priced out. This even affects their e-commerce. We've had a trade imbalance for years, so these tariffs have been applied to countries, but it was a trade imbalance that we worked with, that we made work. Now you have all these additional costs being passed on to us, the creators, and of course to the consumers. U.S. paper mills announced a 35% increase on their paper on April 5th. People that are saying, well, Doge is going to fix this. Well, guess what? Doge will not affect the price of eggs, milk, paper. Those are all commodities. What Doge is doing is gutting the government. So they have nothing to do with this. This all increases cost to the importer of books. Or, if you're making dice, minis, action figures, boxes, any other raw products from China are affected. It will take years of infrastructure work to produce comics. Years. And, the only successful infrastructure bill we've seen passed was in the previous administration. So if you think something's going to happen to help us easily replace all that, it's not going to happen right now. It will take years. And even then, where do you buy the machines? They come from China. Where do you buy the raw materials? They come from China. Where do you get the paper to put into the comics? It comes from China. Again, I'm picking the highest number because those that that are affected by this is the big one, 54%. You could be working with Mexico or Canada, and the tariffs are not quite as bad. Making products in the U.S. will not necessarily be any cheaper. For example, if an iPhone was made in the U.S., it would cost probably about $3,500 for each single one to make right here in the U.S. If tariffs go on long enough for local manufacturing to develop, we can potentially reduce the tariffs, but then local manufacturing is endangered, which forces the U.S. to keep the tariffs high. These tariffs are going to lead us into a recession. It's going to put small publishers right out of business. This is a sales tax on the U.S. people. People think that it'll be easy to get offset printing in the U.S., but it's not easy right now because offset printing in the U.S. mostly focuses on menus, flyers, things like that. They're simple things, not books. They get better money for those. So, yeah, pretty dire. I really don't know what else to say about it. Are there any solutions? Well, Congress has to stop this. And the other solution, because Congress is not going to stop it, we know that already, right? Is you have to support your local retailers, your local shops, and hopefully when our alternatives start to pop up and crop up, we can take advantage of those. So if you're a small publisher out there that was affected by this, I feel for you. I was reading, who was it suggested? Well, I forget where it was, but somebody suggested it might be easier just refund everyone's money and just have all your product destroyed rather than pay the tariffs. You might end up better because then at least you're avoiding the the packaging and shipping costs piled on top of these new tariffs, which are due immediately. If you had books sitting there at port, it doesn't matter if they were there for a week, 2 weeks, a month. You should have got them before we were liberated. But my heart goes out to you, as an individual that writes, draws, and creates my own stories. I've been down on myself for not making better progress, but when it's one person, like myself, doing the work of an entire studio, it just takes time. It takes time. I'm writing, I'm drawing, I'm lettering, I'm inking, I'm coloring, I'm publishing, I'm promoting. All of that stuff takes time. I can only imagine if I had pushed myself through before feeling that my story was right, okay, and I pushed myself through, survived a Kickstarter, and then boom, I just got hit. Even 10 or 20% on tariffs would be ridiculous. It would probably devastate me, because you're looking to place the price point of your book at a reasonable point so people will buy it. So your profit margin is already razor thin. So the tariffs just obliterate that, and you're left with nothing but debt. Like I said at the beginning, this is catastrophic news. Indeed, dire news for the comic industry. But you know what? This is my rallying call to my fellow artists out there. Keep at it. This is what we exist for. We exist to be a part of times in peril. It's our duty, okay? Yeah, I'm going to be pretentious. Yeah, we're cartoonists. They're funny books. They're this, they're that. But they're also pieces of media that can reach people. And now's the time to start doing it. Make your best work. Put it out there. Affect people. Tell your story. And keep telling it. Go on to the next one. Fight the good fight through your art. If that's pretentious to you, well, so be it. But I also say, go F yourself, because I really don't care, okay? I really, really don't care. Well, if that wasn't pleasant enough for you, today's episode of Comic-Jutsu has been brought to you by the Comic Book Shop in downtown picturesque Troy, North Carolina. That's right. Visit the Comic Book Shop at 118 Bruton Street, Troy, NC. You can pick up your latest and greatest books. They have the finest selection of comic books and memorabilia in the area, literally. Check out our newest stock. There used to be a comic shop in Troy almost 30 years ago. It lasted probably 6 months before it went out of business. When Ashley opened the comic book shop in Troy, I thought, well, I'm going to go here. I'm going to buy books, support my local retailer, and just hope that they survive. And you know what? He has survived. He survived by keeping his overhead low, and he focuses on his store, and he focuses on the customers. New episodes of new issues of Green Lantern, Absolute Superman, Daredevil, Cold Day in Hell, Moon Girl, Devil Dinosaur, Rivals, The Concert of Champions. On and on it goes. It's all waiting for you at the Comic Book Shop in Troy. Pick up your books. Go around the corner to the cafe. Get yourself a nice green tea or a mocha latte. I don't drink coffee, so I always mispronounce those goofy names, but I do drink green tea. Speaking of which, I'm actually ill and under the weather today, but I'm forcing myself through this. I felt like this had to be talked about today to try to just lay out some basic facts. Okay, so that's what I tried to do for you. And, if you actually know more about this than I do, I've just gained this information through my own research. Feel free to, drop me a line at comicjutsu@gmail.com. All right, thanks for joining me. This is JT. Make sure you're subscribed to the Comic-Jutsu YouTube channel and, of course, to the podcast. And I will see you next time. Keep fighting the good fight.